Hey y'all, hey, we are back for another review of Sisters. We're on season 7, episode 22, entitled Had It Coming. Now, this is the season finale, and I don't know if they're talking about Hayden or if they're talking about Gary, because they both kind of got what they had coming in this episode, but I'm excited for both of them. So let's just jump right into it. Sabrina is still sitting in the nurse's office or whatever, and we got Rich and we got Damani sitting here. And she's confused as to why Rich just bursted in and what's really going on. And now the two guys are getting into it. They're going back and forth. And he tells her, like, she can't let her go through with this thing with Damani. And then she reminds him in that moment, like, hey, I'm going to remind you what you've been saying all this time. You don't want no kids, you don't want no parts, blah, blah, blah. And so she questions if he is sure about his decision. And so the nurse reminds him, like, girl, we don't have time. And if you think you're going to be a donor today, it's not going to happen because it's going to take way too long for you to be vetted for this process. So, I'm sorry. That was a hiccup. She reminds him that he won't be vetted in time for the process. And so she tells Sabrina, like, hey, I can reschedule the procedure, but it'll only be for a week. That'll be as far as I can push it out. Sabrina's not pleased, and so now we have to apologize to Damani, and we're going to reconvene within that week's time frame to move on with the process. Now, with who? Damani or Rich? We're not sure just yet. All right. So Miss Willis goes in to see Hayden, and she's there to find out, like, hey, like, time is money, my money. And so we need to figure out, hey, what have you been able to come up with on my upcoming ex-husband? And he hasn't been able to come up with anything on him. And then Andy rolls into the meeting like, you know, what's up? Yeah, I heard y'all were looking for me. And then hands Mrs. Willis a folder that assures her, like, hey, you're not going to lose a dime. He's going to walk away with everything he came in with. He's not going to get anything that belongs to you. Yes, I will tell you that he was cheating, but it wasn't with women. That's not really what it was. His assistant was just conducting the financial transactions for his fixation account. And we know that the fixation account is kind of like Grindr, you know, for the people in that community that know what that is. It's a virtual account when you hook up with people, and Maurice was on there, like I mentioned in the last episode. He was one of Maurice's most faithful clients for the last couple of months before he gave it up for his beau. And so Ms. Willis is more than pleased and excited about what she's just found out, because she gets to keep everything she's worked so hard for. And so she's thankful. She's thankful that Andy has helped her save everything that she's worked so hard for. And so now Hayden has dismissed himself or whatever. And so she notices that Andy is not as excited about the result as she is. And she's like, well, what's going on? Like, tell me what's going on, good girl. And Andy's like, I don't want to rope you into my personal business. And she was like, girl, you all in my personal business. And she was like, yeah, by design. Like, you are paying me to be in your business, and this is different. I don't want to conflict the relationship that we have. And so it appears that Miss Willis makes her comfortable enough to tell her everything about Gary and the threats and everything that he's holding over Jordan's head, because Jordan is the one that introduced Miss Willis to Andy, or recommended Andy to Miss Willis, shall I say. And so, she gets sad at the sound of Jordan's voice, blah, 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 and here we are. And now Miss Marie tells her, like, girl, don't even worry about Gary. Like, I'm really going to help you out. Like, I owe it to you. And she's like, oh, Miss Willis, like, I don't want you to get in that. What you going to do? She's like, girl, the less you know, the better. And so now this whole episode is going to be about people conspiring to kind of get back against Gary. And then, of course, we're going to go into the next season. We're going to have 100 different ways to figure out who did what they did to Gary, but we'll talk about that by the end of the episode. Okay, and so we move along. Miss Marie is on the way out, child. She's skipping through the tulips. She's having a good day, and she stops by Hayden's office on the way out to proposition him. She's like, what you trying to do? You trying to get a little afternoon delight or what? And he is mad about Andy one-upping him, and feels like she shouldn't have talked to him and dismissed him like that in the meeting. And she knows, like, listen, there is a difference between business and pleasure. Andy is business. You are pleasure for the time being, so don't get the two mixed up. And Andy delivered, and you didn't. The better man won. And you can't be mad about that. And so he thinks he's owed something simply for the fact that he is knocking her down. I guess he's owed some sort of respect because of it. And she reminds him, like, listen, you really pretty much out of my league, and you're not my type, and you're merely a pastime, and might I add, a charity case, because I feel like doing it. So don't think you have any hierarchy in my life. You just happen to be here for the time being, is basically what she's telling him. And so he threatens to go to the media and tell them about their escapades, which will not only look bad on Miss Willis, and you have a limited amount of time to reveal this information, because within the week, let's just say Andy's gonna have the paper drawn up, she's gonna present the evidence to Mr. Willis, and the papers are gonna be signed, no debate. So, you know, you bringing this to the forefront may not even hurt her case. Let's just say that. And not only that, you will hurt yourself, because you're running for partner. You still work at this law firm, which means, you know, you giving very much conflict of interest. So you are gonna go down with the ship, and this ain't really the ship you want to go down on. But whatever. Anyway, she was like, listen, one thing about it, I will rat myself out before I even give you a chance to, little guy. So what you should do is know that you get with a monster, and this ain't really the tree you want to bark up. So now, again, he got what he had coming. Like, he'd been taken down a peg. His chances at partner are slim to none at this point. Like, things are falling apart for Hayden, and I'm so excited about it. Okay. Fatima gets to the house, and she walks right past Zach, and he's got like an attitude like, girl, what's going on? Like, you ain't answer your phone. What's up? And so she has to tell Zach, you know, what went down when she went to see Gary, and tells him that things got physical by way of him sicking his doorman on her. And he demands to know, like, you know, what's the details, what's happening. And she's like, listen, I can handle it myself. Appreciate you. Thanks for looking out. But calm down. And Zach don't care about none of that. Like, he's telling her, like, you know, this is his last day on the planet. Like, I'm about to get his head on the stake for this. And she's like, calm down. Like, we got things to do. You know, let's do this strategically. He was like, listen, I don't really even care no more. Like, I'm done. And she reminds him that you got a lot to lose now. Like, you know, not that long ago would have made sense to handle this the violent way, but we got a lot to think about, a lot to lose. You know, we got baby Michael. We got a lot going on, so let me do this. I agree that something does need to be done, but it needs to be done my way. And it's going to happen my way, or it's not going to happen at all. So let's just settle down. And so he agrees for now. Okay. We see Pam. She runs into Miss Marie at the office, and Miss Marie tells her, like, she was pleased with whatever the edge toys that Pam created under her Rags to Riches banner. She was handing out samples, and Miss Marie was like, girl, like, you had my edges, you know, laid to the gods or whatever. And then she was like, listen, I'm looking for an investor, so it looks like Pam, you know, is going to be coming up, as she has Miss Pam as an investor. Hopefully that relationship goes well, and that particular little thing is kind of wrapped up in a nice little bow. At least for, you know, for the end of the season. Okay. One of the partners, Mr. Benson, calls Andy in for a meeting. And he tells her, like, you know, there's been a lot going on, you know, these last couple months as far as the firm is concerned. A lot has been happening quite recently, and has had your name associated with it. However, on the other side of the coin, Miss Marie has been very pleased with your performance, and she told us how everything went with her case, and she will be transferring all of her legal business to Benson, Jones, and Barnes. And that basically being the announcement that Andy is now partner. She has made partner, and he is more than sure that they're not going to regret the decision. And so now Andy has got some kind of joy back in her life with this decision. Now, this one little thing, you know, this one little section did have me smiling, because I'm like, sometimes your work speaks for you, as opposed to your little one-offs. You know, the little bad day she had with the couple little things that happened on company time. Her overall worth to the company is what they were able to see, hopefully. Now, hopefully she's not just like a affirmative action hire, for lack of a better term, and they just have her there in namesake or as some favor for Miss Willis bringing all of her, I'm sure, millions and millions of dollars to the company. I hope that she is now an asset. But what I also hope she learns is to separate all that personal stuff from her business life. That's what I hope she has learned, but I doubt it. Okay. Hayden sees her celebrating in her office, and he assumes that it's because of the Willis case. And she was like, oh no, my good brother, that's not what we're celebrating. What we're celebrating is my partnership. I am now a partner. And he's looking like somebody took his balloon and popped it. Like, he is dejected. And she tells him, listen, basically count your days, because you now report to me and it's over for you. So now again, Hayden is getting what's coming to him, because you thought you was gonna get this. You did all this. You did everything to try to win. You tried to sleep your way to the top. You tried to lie on me. You tried to do all these things to take me out, and I still won. So again, strike two. Hayden is still getting reaping what he sowed, and I am so excited about it. Okay. Sabrina is telling Rich that she gave him every opportunity to be a part of the process, and he tells her, like, you are absolutely right, and I thought I was sure, but the thought of you doing this process was someone else gave him two choices, to either get with it or get gone. And he decided to give it the program. And she doesn't want him to do it because he's afraid of losing her. She's like, listen, it was a good ride. This has been nice. But if this is where we get off, I'm okay with that. She again offers him yet another out, which I think is going to be a problem next season, but whatever. She knows that this is unorthodox and it's uncomfortable, but it's something that she has to do for herself, with no regard for Rich. Being a mother is something that is valuable. That is one of her life's goals, and it is something that she's going to fulfill. But she also knows that there is a physical time limit on this thing, and that it has to happen. And he tells her that he never met anyone that he wanted to have kids with. And he claims that now that his life is becoming more successful, the juice bar is successful. When he looks and thinks about what his future is going to be, he keeps seeing this image of Sabrina being a part of that success. And he wants her more than he doesn't want to have kids. I don't know, y'all. I'm not buying it. It sounds wonderful in TV land, but literally this whole time, not just his stance was not, hey, maybe not the second. He has said, even since he was a kid, this is not something that he saw in his plan for his life. And of course, things change. But from a kid up until an hour ago, this has been his stance. So I think that is a fleeting thought. And I think that it is something about Damani being physically present that is just, again, I think it's a machismo, it's a bravado thing. And once the dust settles, he may second guess his decision. Not only that, he says he sees this vision of his future, and Sabrina is what he sees in his future. And I mean, again, it sounds nice, but of course this is the person you're currently with, so you don't know who you're going to be with in the future. So of course that picture would be Sabrina. Maybe I'm wrong. Let me know what y'all think. Maybe I'm just the protagonist. Is that the word? Sure. Maybe I'm the negative Nancy in the situation, but I'm not buying it. All right, so Hayden gets home, and all of his losses from the day are fresh on his mind. He ain't here for Tamara's crap. They already got some existing tension, so it's about to get diabolical, right? So he brings that attitude home to Tamara, and of course she already has an attitude because, the gray hair in the mouth situation, which really would have, you would have caught a hot one if it were me, but whatever. Now they're going back and forth, blaming each other, calling names, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, listen, give me that phone. So let me run that phone. And then he snatches her phone, and he is physically pinning her down and going through the phone. And in this moment, he sees the video of her and Gary, and can y'all believe it? Hayden is truly hurt, shedding one little single tear about the situation. And he's like, well, how many times? And she was like, it was just once. And he was like, please. And she was like, okay, a few times. And then she tells him it was, I did it to blackmail him so I can get some money for us. He was like, no, ma'am, cut the crap. And then he's like, how long? And she was like, you know, a couple months, he was like, girl, get out of my house. Just go and get my house. We divorced anyway. Go ahead and head out or whatever. And so, again, like I said, we really see a little passionate thug tear from Hayden. And I was just cackling. I was cackling because, sir, not you hurt. Not you heard about it. Not you was just knocking Miss Willis from window to wall, from the window to the wall, and you got passionate tears running down your boy. Please, good day and goodbye. So that is what's happening. Tony is at Danny's with flowers and an apology. He came to tell her that Tiffany is moving. She got stationed in Italy. She now has orders to Italy, and the kids want to go with her because they miss their mom so much and they want to be with their mama. Well, within their right, understandable. And Danny's kind of relieved, but she also knows how bad he's gonna miss his kids because he's an active dad and his kids mean a lot to him. So she knows that he's gonna go through a transition, but she's, you know, down for the ride. And he now knows that he hasn't done a very good job at setting boundaries with Tiffany, and then she asks if he really means it because he truly desires to work on things with Danny, or because she is the only option left now that Tiffany is leaving. And one thing about Danny, y'all can say what y'all want to say about Danny, but when she makes sense, she makes sense. And I thought about that as well, because it is easy to set boundaries, to put your foot down, to not think of Tiffany, to not be affected by Tiffany when she is no longer in the locale, when she's not within a minute's drive of you and Danny and you know, everything that's going on. So yeah, it's easy to say, oh yeah, I'm not thinking about her, I wasn't ever thinking about her, blah 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 blah, when she's going to go thousands of miles or however many miles away. However, I would be hesitant to say that that would also be the case if she had orders to someplace in Georgia or somewhere, you know, a little more closer in the vicinity, because it took you this long to figure out that you did not have boundaries with Tiffany when Danny had been telling you this for, let's just say, weeks, for lack of a time scale. And maybe you really did not learn the boundary. Maybe the boundary created itself with the distance that's being forced upon you two. That's just me. Let me know what y'all think. Put it in the comments. All right. Andy is driving and she decides to call Jordan to give her last ditch, you know, conversation, because we know she's never going to be able to talk to Jordan again if she goes through, you know, with this wedding with Gary. And she tells him, you know, she thanks him for referring her to Miss Marie. Everything went off swimmingly, and then she lets him know like he's a great man and apologizes for not being able to be with him. She reminds him that this isn't because of him, just in case she never speaks to him again, this is not your fault, this is not something you need to carry, and that he didn't do anything wrong, and that she's trying to protect him. And she ends it's a voicemail. She doesn't get him on the line, and so she's kind of wrapped that up, but we know, in TV land, it's not truly wrapped up, so we're going to see him again. All right. Karen tells the girls that she saw a date somewhere, somehow, where Andy is getting married that day. Today. Let's just say today, right? And Karen knows that they're still missing something, and they're not buying her undying love that she's proclaimed for Gary. So we need to figure out something. And Danny knows that he's under investigation and that spouses can't be, made to testify against their spouse. And so that might be the reason as to why. Again, I'm with you when you're right, and I'm with Danny when she's making sense, because why else would you be forcing her to marry you? That's not going to stop her from physically seeing Jordan. That may not stop her from talking to him, only under the threat of the cartel, but independent of that, that's not going to physically stop her. So yes, it's going to be the FBI investigation. That might be the thing that's going to be a good reason for why they need to get married, of course. And so Karen tells them, like, hey, we got to pop up at the wedding. And for the second time, because remember there was another wedding seasons ago and they popped up, blah, 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 whatever. And so now they got to pop up at this wedding to try to interfere. Okay. Fatima is trying to call Madam to ask for her favor, to go ahead and get Gary up out of here. But she is deep in some other business. And so, where I thought that this was going to be the plan that was going to come through to get Gary out of all of our lives forever. Unfortunately, I don't think that's going to happen this season because Madam is tied up, and by the end of this episode, Gary might not be a problem for any of us. We'll see. Okay. Karen calls Zach's phone for Fatima, and of course they looking back like what's going on, and it's no beef. They just need her help about the wedding, and ask her, hey, do you know where it's at, because we need to help our girl out. We know blah 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 blah. So Andy makes her promise not to tell, but Fatima's like, girl, whatever, like we all bets are off at this point. And Fatima agrees to send the address, and now her and Zach also have to head towards the wedding, because we know some crap is about to go down. And so she grabs her handy dandy whatever's in her little bag of tricks, and we are going to head towards the wedding. All right. So at this point, let's just count the people that we got. We got all the girls headed towards the wedding. We got Andy headed towards the wedding. We got Jordan, because Jordan's gonna pop up, and we already talked about Jordan. So we got all these people headed that direction. Okay. And Hayden calls Gary on the phone, and now the one tear has turned into streams. Like, he is legit crying. Like, he is like, he's pissed. And he calls Gary, and he tries to remain as normal as possible to find out, hey, where you at, dog? Like, I heard you had something going on today. What's up? And he's bragging about how he's about to make Andy marry him, and how he ruined her life and now she has no choice. And Hayden's like, oh, so you planned this the whole time? Of course I did. Like, what else? Like, bragging about everything that's going on. And then he goes so far as to say, hey, you guys should come to the wedding, you and Tamara, because I'd like to have y'all there. And he's like, okay, cool. Yeah, just, drop the location. I'm coming to the wedding. And of course he is doing everything to hold it together, because he is someone else that wants Gary's head on a platter. And so he's headed to the wedding as well. No Tamara in tow, because, they're not getting along right now, as he says. Okay. We are at the wedding, just waiting for the festivities to begin. And then the girls walk in. Gary's assistant is trying to run interference, but what are you going to do? Drag me out of here? I'm a pregnant woman and two other girls. What are you going to do? You're not going to do anything. And then, as they're begging her to, like, hey, please go with us. Let me take you to the hospital, Wanda. Like, if you know the movie reference, drop it in the comments. And then Jordan shows up as well. He's like, y'all girls, let me talk to her. Like, I think I can get through to her. And she's just begging for everybody to leave, like, whatever. And Jordan didn't care about anything. He doesn't care. Whatever he has on you, I don't care about what Gary has on you. Let's just run away together, or let's get 2 tickets and never come back. And she is standing at the altar, and she knows that she feels as if she has to do this. And she does it, but she, kind of subdues Jordan. She's like, I gotta do this. Like, I gotta protect you. It's what I have to do. And so now he also has to concede and walk away. So now she is standing at the altar waiting on Gary. She's like, well, hurry up. Like, what's going on? Let's get this over with. And she tells his assistant, like, hey, I'm gonna go see where he at, because we need her to get the show on the road. And then she rushes into his office, and she's like, Gary, like, what's going on? Let's go. And she sees him laid out on the floor, and he has been stabbed in the chest, and he appears to be no longer with us. And what was funny is that she saw him. She was taken aback for a second. She was like, and then she was like, you know what? This is kind of good. And she gives the fakest set of screams, like, oh my God. Oh my God, Gary, woo. Like, giving real fake screams, but, just enough to give some attention to get the people to come in and realize that she found him, to ease the suspicion. And so that is how the episode ends. So it appears that Gary is unalived at this time, and that is how we end the season. Now, I try to stay away from any predictions online. I try my best, but I did see somebody say, in true Tyler Perry fashion, what if this is a dream? What if this is, one of those things? And I just hope not, because it's time. It is time for him to be unalived. And if it is not, who do y'all think did it? Because let's think about it. Hayden is on the way. Gary and Fatima are on the way, and then she got her handy dandy backpack that could have anything in it. You really don't know if the tool is in there, a butter knife. You don't know what's in this bag, right? Or was it Penelope? I think it's none of the obvious people. I think it could be somebody like Penelope. I don't know. Because you know what I'm also wondering? Remember when Jordan talked to that lady that used to work at Gary's office that his assistant tried to strong arm him to being quiet? Like, what was her role? We don't know what she said to Jordan about Gary. So there's a disconnect there. She was introduced for a reason and we don't know why. But who do y'all think stabbed Gary? And do y'all really think he is out of here? It would be wonderful if he is. I would be so excited about it. But yeah, that is the end of the season. Of course, we'll be back, I'm sure, in like a couple months. In the meantime, I will be reviewing Ruthless. They are back. They just dropped 3 episodes, so those are going to be following this video up immediately. Let me know what y'all think about the episode. What are y'all predictions for next season? Oh, let's get into predictions for next season. Next season, Rich is going to talk Sabrina off of the ledge, and he is going to regret it at some point within this season. If Gary is gone, I think Jordan and Andy will be able to pick up where they left off, and Penelope will be able to move on with her life, but she will be no longer needed in the storyline. So don't know how that's going to work. Rich and Danny will kind of pick back up. I don't know what their issue is going to be this time around. Not really sure. The only thing I can kind of think of is Tony wanting to be with his kids because he really misses his kids. That's all I can kind of come up with. Maurice and whatever old boy's name is, I don't even know where they stand. They don't have anything to talk about. Yeah, so Sabrina's gonna end up, moving on with the process. Like, which man? I think it's gonna be Rich, unfortunately. Yeah, and Andy may end up being suspect numero uno, but I hope not, because girl, you just have enough legal troubles to hold you over. Remember, she was tied up in a lot of the cases last time, so well, let's just give Andy a break next season. But whatever, that has been the episode. I will see y'all next season. Let me know what you think in the comments. Like, comment, share, subscribe, or whatever it is that you feel like doing, and I'll see you in the next one.